Welcome to the Global Classroom. This is the problem-based learning track. My name is Arnim Wiek,
My name is Michael Bernstein.
and we are responsible for the problem-based learning track from the ASU side. This is the instructional video for sustainable cities. The future is here, just not evenly distributed. The problem-based learning track is based on a problem-based learning framework that focuses on how do we generate solution strategies for urban sustainability problems. The framework is based on 3 different modules. The first one is when we think about solving a sustainability problem, we obviously need to understand what the sustainability problem is. We need to understand cause-effect relations within the problem so that we have a good baseline to start from. The second module is focused on potential solutions to those problems, what we call sustainability visions. What are those potential solutions is the guiding question of the second module. The third module makes the link between those 2 modules, and the guiding question is here: how will we achieve the solutions? How do we build transition strategies? What kind of skills do we need to perform those 3 different tasks we just described? We have identified a variety of competencies we would like to teach you to be capable of developing solution options to urban sustainability problems. The first skill set is related to systems thinking. Thinking systemically, thinking about cause-effect relations. That's what systems thinking is about. Futures-oriented thinking is primarily about solution options. Solution options are in the future. We need to build your capacity to think creatively, but also in a structured way about those solution options. The third element is related to values. Sustainability is a value-laden concept. It's all about trying to be capable of analyzing problems from a sustainability perspective, but also critically reflecting on solutions from a sustainability perspective. Are those solutions really sustainable? Finally, very critical capacity is strategic thinking. This is a skill that develops how you build strategies for change. Change is required to move us out of problematic situations and towards a sustainable future. Now, how do those competencies map onto the initial framework? First, for the problem state, we need systems thinking and value-oriented thinking. You need to thoroughly understand the problem from a sustainability perspective. For the potential solution options, you need systems thinking and value thinking again, but you also need to really think in a structured way about how can we accomplish this in the future. So futures thinking is an additional component here for this module. And finally, how do we make this happen? How will we achieve those solutions? That requires strategic thinking. This class topic is sustainable cities. The future is here, just not evenly distributed. All of the competencies we have discussed are relevant for each of our lectures, but we always focus on one particular one we want to build. Today's lecture will primarily focus on and build your competence in future-oriented thinking.
So now, since the 1960s, we've seen incredible growth in population. We've seen incredible development of the land across the planet. And this development has major implications for different resources on the planet, for the fossil fuels that drive our automobiles and heat our homes, the air and water that we take advantage of every day, the soil that gives us the vegetables and fruits and feeds the cows and chickens and all these other animals that we eat, the metals and minerals that are enabling us to do this video as we speak, and biodiversity, when in a less tangible way, but in an absolutely real way, most pharmaceutical products are actually derived from nature. Over the course of these past 40, 50 years, population growth has put incredible pressure on these resources.
The other element is social tensions, poverty, obesity issues, public health issues. All of those challenges are critically important for the viability of cities as well, and we have not represented all of them on this slide. So this is just a subset of the challenges faced in modern cities.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's been 40 or 50 years, so many different strategies have evolved across the globe that try to solve these problems, and they envision a future that is already here in many of cities and societies around the world. For example, in Saudi Arabia, there's a city called Masdar, and it envisions a world of what we used to think about with the Jetsons, if that's not dating myself, with electric cars, traveling under the city and, solar power buildings and all these different elements of the future. Whereas in New York City, there are visions of sort of a more community-driven solution to a lot of the problems. Paul Romer, in a TED Talk that you'll be watching this week, talks about more of a governmentally focused solution and vision for the future. And in other cities like Rio de Janeiro, we've seen IBM partner with the city, and they've developed a very computer-based strategy where they have computers monitoring traffic, monitoring weather, monitoring accidents, dispatching police based on social media reports. This very, very integrated technological vision.
Mm-hmm. And this is exactly what we would like to accomplish in this problem-based learning stream, which could also be called solution-oriented learning stream. We really would like you to engage with solution options to urban sustainability problems worldwide. And here you see few examples. We will go into those examples this week, but you are encouraged. And as we are moving forward in our project, it's actually required from your side to be very creative, to be inspired by solutions that have been developed worldwide and build them into our project.
Now, this week, as you saw from the solutions that we showed around the world, there are sort of 4 different perspectives you can take on how solutions take shape. There's sort of more technological solutions, there are more infrastructure-driven solutions, there are sort of these social, governmental solutions, and there are sort of these community-driven solutions. And this week, the different readings will focus around these different types of solutions. So for the technology focus, as we mentioned a few slides ago, we're going to have you look at a newspaper article about the IBM partnership with the city of Rio de Janeiro. For the infrastructure solution approach, we're going to have you look at something called the Smart Growth Manual, which is examples of the future distributed around the world, different houses, different roads, different commuter patterns, all these different things. We're also going to have you look at the city of Masdar, which is a more sort of a technological, but also top-down, and by top-down we mean driven from a select few at the top of a decision body. And Paul Romer's TED Talk, which we're going to have you watch, talks about sort of how that decision body might set up choices and rules for a society. And finally, we're going to look at the Urban Omnibus, which is a great webpage for New York City. It's got about 50 ideas about ways to improve New York City, and they're crowdsourced. There are streams and streams of comments of people on how to make these ideas better. A lot of these ideas focus on community development, on bringing people together and sort of improving neighborhoods and building the future that these people want to see.
What we try to do in our lectures as well is giving you really an exposure to various formats of information, right? So there are readings in here, there are videos, there are recorded lectures, there are web pages, and this is again a message, a general message we want to convey here. We really would like to inspire you to take a strong solutions-oriented approach and venture out and find whatever is needed and build this back into this project. This is really an open format of being creative and bringing the best solutions to the table.
So while you're reading, there are a couple of questions that we want you to think about just to prep you for what we'll be talking about in class. We want you to think about what the solution styles are discussed. Think about those technological and social dimensions that we discussed in this slide lecture, and think about how each of those different themes are relevant for the solutions that you read about. Think about the values. Think about the systems of belief that motivate these visions. Are people, totally invested in the idea of technology solving all problems, or do they want a government to take care of the problems for them, or do they want to work on these problems with their neighbors? We want you to think about how sustainable are these solutions. We want you to think about the problems that these solutions try to address, and what other ways you can think of to solve these problems based on your own knowledge and experiences. We want you to think about what it would look like to bring some of these solutions that you read about to Phoenix or to Lüneburg. We want you to think about ways to adapt them into the local context in which you live. And finally, which visions did you like the most? Think about things you would like to think about researching. Mm-hmm. Now, we opened with an idea of the problem-based learning framework. We talked a little bit about the different ways of thinking, the different skills that we thought that are important to the different pillars of the problem-based learning framework. So the take-home messages from this week, we want you to be able to think about describing ideas of urban sustainability solutions, really thinking about the future, develop that future thinking competency. We want to have you be able to identify the major components of a sustainable city. Is it the infrastructure? Is it the government? And that's sort of a systems thinking. But we also want you to think about how those different elements integrate together. What are the ways you can complement a solution from the government with a solution from technology? And that's a real strategic way of thinking. We want you to think about assessing the differences between technological and social solutions, weigh the different values and belief systems at play. And we want you to be able to evaluate the ways that visions for Phoenix might be different for visions of Lüneburg. And this is, again, a way of developing that values competency.
Oh, this is mine?
This is all you.
Okay. We're ending here with the instructional video on sustainable cities. The future is here, just not evenly distributed. We hope you get a sense for what this actually means. And this has a lot to do with the future. And this has a lot to do with seeing the future in the present. And this is exactly the capacity we want to build with this particular lecture, that you build your future-oriented capacity, that you are able to identify those solutions, that you're able to critically reflect on those solutions. Is this really sustainable? Michael introduced different solutions ranging from very technocratic, technology-oriented, infrastructure-oriented solutions to very much social, grassroots-oriented, maybe behavioral change-oriented solutions. What are the implications for sustainability? Who is involved in the decision-making process? How much will those solutions really contribute to socio-ecological integrity? That future generations can benefit from this? That really long-term adverse impacts are avoided? So this is the kind of sustainability-oriented reasoning and reflection on the sustainability options you're looking into. We would like to encourage you and support you in. So we will coach you through this process. This was primarily about futures-oriented thinking. The next set of classes will focus more on other competencies, and all of those different lectures will hopefully build a base of competence related to sustainability problem solving that will put you in a good position for the practical part of this course, where it's really about picking a sustainability problem and working on a viable, sustainable solution to this problem. We will be back shortly.
Thanks for watching.